In this video I'm going to show you how to do your Christmas ham on the barbecue with a great spiced rum and apricot glaze. Hi everyone, this is James from Barbechoo.com and welcome back to the final part in this 5-part series on how to do your Christmas dinner on the barbecue. A huge thanks to Hillstown Farm Shop for sponsoring this series. They have provided all the meat for it, so if you want to find out a little bit more about them and order some of this meat, you can check out the link in the description. Today we're doing the Christmas ham, so they provided this lovely 2.5 kilo raw gammon, so we're going to get that onto the barbecue and turn it into a Christmas ham. While the ham's roasting then we're going to work on a glaze using some apricot jam, a little bit of spiced rum and Dijon mustard, and then we'll get that over the top and get a nice sticky finish on it. So there are a number of different ways to do your Christmas ham, and I have done a few in the past. I've smoked them before, I have boiled them then glazed them, I have just done them straight roasting, which is what we're going to do today. So I haven't steeped this ham, I haven't boiled it to get some of the salt out of it. A good quality raw ham shouldn't be that salty nowadays, so all I've done to this is take the rind off the top of it. I have scored the fat, leave as much fat on there as you can, and then I've tied it up just to hold it in that shape. This was quite a flat piece, so whenever you tie it all together it gives you nice round slices. So as I said, we're just going to roast this straight from raw. There hasn't been a lot of prep work done to it. The only thing we're really going to do to it is add a little bit of pepper to the outside before we put it on to start the roast. So to get it kicked off here, we'll have the smoked pepper from Smoky Bray, and we're just going to season the top of the ham with plenty of it. A little pepper kick coming through is quite nice, especially with the sweetness of the glaze. So that's all really needs done. That's it, ready to go onto the barbecue now to start roasting. The majority of the prep work is going to be in our glaze. So as far as barbecue setup goes, we're using the 50-50 split method, which is an indirect cooking method. So you have coals either side of the barbecue and an area in the center with no coals, and that gives you your area of indirect heat. If you need any help setting up your barbecue for indirect cooking, you can click the little eye card up here and that'll show you the different ways to set it up. But this is my preferred method. The ham itself is going to sit directly onto the cooking grate, so you need something below to catch any juices that are running out of this. So I've put a drip tray in there with a little bit of water. It'll add steam to the chamber as well and keep everything nice and moist, but it'll catch any drips and stop them making a mess of the bottom of your barbecue. Temperature wise in your barbecue, you're looking between 180 and 200 degrees, so a sort of high roasting temperature. Anywhere in that range should be fine. So we can go ahead and get this onto the barbecue, and then we'll talk a little bit about the glaze and what you have to do to prepare it. Go ahead and place your ham onto the cooking grate directly above that tray. Leave a little bit of space on one side because we are going to have to get a pan on here to heat up the glaze, so don't put it right in the center, you might have trouble squeezing a pan on. So at this point we're just going to close up the lid, give it 30 to 40 minutes to start and crisp up the fat, and then we're going to start applying the glaze. So the glaze is pretty simple to prepare. The first thing we need to do is get our spiced rum and bring that to the boil just to burn off some of that alcohol, so we're getting all the flavour from it but the alcohol's gone. So I have a pot here, I'm going to add in around about 100 ml of spiced rum. Just use whatever brand you want. So just add that onto your barbecue over the direct heat and bring that up until it starts to boil, and that'll burn off the alcohol. Then we're going to get all the other ingredients added in. So while we're waiting for the rum to come to the boil, we might as well go over the other ingredients. So we have 300 grams of apricot jam. We have around 50 grams of Dijon mustard and around 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. That's all that goes into this glaze. So it took me a little while to settle on this glaze. I've tried a few out in the past and tried to come up with different ones to suit everybody's taste. My wife isn't a fan of really sweet glazes, so a traditional honey glaze is out. I've tried making basically mustard based glazes, and to me they just didn't have the flavour, didn't have the sweetness there. So using the apricot jam with a little bit of that mustard in it gives a nice level of sweetness, but it's not as sickly sweet as a honey glaze would be. But play around with it yourself, come to your own tastes. If you want to up the mustard in it to make it a little bit more savoury, that's fine. You can play around with different jams, maybe a marmalade or something like that would be quite nice in it rather than the apricot jam. I just like the flavour of the apricot jam that it gave the glaze, and I went with it. Okay, our rum has come to the boil, so we're going to lift that off. Get the lid back onto the barbecue as quick as you can. And we're going to add everything else into this now, and then we can leave it on the barbecue in that indirect heat to stay warm. So the first thing we're going with is our 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Then in with our 300 grams of apricot jam. Give that a mix around. The heat from the rum will start to melt the jam. We're going to put this on to warm up anyway. Okay, and then finally the last thing to go in is our 50 grams of Dijon mustard. Just give it all a stir around, try and combine it as best you can. Whenever we add this back onto the barbecue, we're going to stir it every now and again until we add it to the ham. You just want to make sure everything is broke down and incorporated into the glaze. Oh, you can really smell the mustard of it. So the great thing about it is the apricot jam gives it sweetness, but the mustard gives it a savoury flavour as well. So that's all combined. All we have to do now, put it onto the indirect area of the barbecue. It'll stay warm until it comes to the time we'll have to add it onto the ham. The ham has had around 40 minutes on the barbecue. The fat has started to sort of shrink up and it's started to go nice and crisp on top. That gives you a nice rough texture to add your glaze to, so it's going to catch in between all them little crevices and stick to the outside of the ham. So our glaze has been on, staying warm on the barbecue. I've lifted it off here, and now all that's left to do is to pour it over the top. Use gloves because everything is warm. Just drizzle that down over the top. So we've applied the glaze to the ham. A lot of it has fallen off into the bottom of the tray. More of it will run off as it cooks, but we're going to come back every sort of 15 minutes and just use a spoon to baste that up over the top again. Gradually it'll build up that sticky layer on the outside, and that's where the real flavour is. So it's in the tray. We're going to set it back onto the barbecue in the centre in that indirect area and continue to roast it. We'll monitor the temperature of it until it gets up to around maybe 72 degrees Celsius. Then we'll bring it off, wrap it and let it carry over until it hits 75, and then it will be ready to slice. It took a total of 2 hours to get the temperature up to around 72 degrees, 73. Then we lifted it off and covered it in foil and allowed it to rest up to around 75, 76. So it's been resting for maybe 20-25 minutes. I came back to it and applied the glaze maybe every 15-20 minutes or so. As you can see up the top here, it has gone dark, but this isn't hard or crispy. It's still nice and soft and sticky. So the sugars in that apricot jam really caramelize and stick to it. It is super tacky and the smell is incredible. So I think we need to carve into it. I'll try and bring you in at a slightly better angle to see inside it. Kind of hard to explain just how juicy this is. It feels so tender. Pull a slice out here, give it a go. Move. I can already taste it off my fingers. That glaze is unreal. You don't really need a knife, it does just pull apart. And it's lovely and moist. Oh, so good. I stand by my decision to not soak it or to not boil it to get the salt out. To me, that is not salty at all. Obviously, I wouldn't put any salt into the glaze or anything. It does not need it. To me, that's just the perfect level of saltiness. So, depends on the quality of ham you're buying. Again, this is a really good ham. It's from Hillstown Farm Shop. This is their rare breed middle white pig. So, if you know that you're doing a good quality ham, I honestly wouldn't recommend boiling it or soaking it to get the salt out. It is tender as. That's the other thing as well. Taking it off at 72 and allowing it to rest up to 75, I think makes a massive difference with it. Ham can dry out a little bit if it goes too far, and it almost turns to more of a like shredded texture. But this here is perfect. It's still holding together nice. There's a nice bite to it, but it's still really tender. Get a bit here with some of that glaze on it. The first thing you get is the fruity sweetness from it, which is I suppose what honey glazed ham, that's what everybody looks for, but if you wait, you get the little hint of pepper and that mustard heat coming through in the back. It's really nicely balanced. And the wee chunks of apricot out of the jam have actually gone like all chewy and sweet and so nice. So give it a try. Again, this is just one way I've done my ham. I've done it on the smoker before. I've boiled it in coke and then glazed it in the kettle. There's a load of different ways, but whatever way you do it, you can take that recipe for that glaze and try it your way, whatever way you prefer cooking, and then just use the glaze recipe. But I definitely recommend giving that technique a go. It's kind of hard to even call it a technique. It was literally just set on and roast it the way you would roast anything in the barbecue. So please give it a try. If you want a recipe for this here with all the step-by-step process, I will leave a link in the description to my website which will have it on it. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.